Hello, I'm Dr. Katherine Horton. I would like to give a brief update about the court case of Frederic Laroche today. But before I start, let me just check for sabotage. Okay, right. It sounds like you can hear me. So yeah, I don't have to tell you. You can see for yourself the horrific injuries I have everywhere in my face. I'm not wearing any makeup, kind of on purpose, just to show you just how many shots can you see, how many pencil beams can you see that have drilled into my forehead, because I can tell you it has been absolutely brutal. So, you know, on top of what you can see here, the last couple of days I have been gunned extremely. So most of the time they hit me on the top of the skull as I'm being shot from what I can now say with fairly you know, high confidence are satellite loaded weapons. And because they come mostly from above, and on clear days, there's doesn't seem to be anything between me and you know, the high heavens. So anyway, the last couple of days have been absolutely brutal. So I would say roughly about from Saturday, starting to Saturday to today. Today is the 29th of November. It's Thursday morning, almost 1 a.m. in the morning. I have been tortured intensely, but I really mean absolutely intensely, with pulsed energy projectile shots ripping through my body with roughly, like, actually felt, you know, something like one every second, or at most every 2 to 3 seconds. But when I'm lying down, because my cross-sectional area is much larger, I'm being shot with something like 2 to 3 shots per second. So this is every second you can feel 3 different parts of your body being gunned. And what they did is, in the phases where they weren't gunning, they were vibrating my body. And having non-stop reverberation in your body is, with time, degenerating your balance system and your entire neurological setup and calibration. So I now have seriously, I'm struggling to walk. I'm sometimes struggling to speak, and my handwriting has been deteriorated. So as you can see from all the cases of the diplomats in Cuba and China, they had all brain damage. And this is exactly what these directed energy weapons aim to give you. It's cancer and neurological damage. So I have been gunned extremely intensely here in Switzerland, near Zurich. And this is, you know, above me is Swiss airspace, and it should be the Swiss military taking care of it. So I'm fairly confident that this is the Swiss military assaulting me, in conjunction with probably US Air Force Base Schriever or Patterson, where the US Space Command is. And it is insane. So I can definitely tell that there has been brutal retaliation in preparation for the upcoming court case today, where I'm appearing as an expert witness. So the court case I'm talking about is that of Frederic Laroche. I would like to share a couple of things with you. If you haven't followed my Twitter, there are a few releases that you need to know about, and that I ask you to also back up for me, for my personal safety and for future record as a historical record. So please let me share my screen and take you to my website at stop007.org. I have uploaded new documents here. You can find the second link here, Court Case of Frederic Laroche, 29th of November in Grenoble. That is today. The court case will take place here in the Tribunal Correctionnel de Grenoble in France, and it will start at 1:30. So I have to get myself from Zurich to Grenoble in a few hours. But one of the things I would like you to have is here the court summons. This is my court summons. I just redacted stuff that birthdays and private addresses that are not to be released, you know, because they are used in banking information and so on. So you can see that the document is here. It's addressed to me to appear as an expert witness here on the 29th of November at 1:30. By the way, I also noticed at this occasion that the French judiciary has an image of the goddess Isis. You have here the wings, the, you know, if you have hieroglyphs or the kind of pharaonic drawings, you sometimes have eagles with their wings spread like that. Or maybe it's the rising sun in the background, but anyway, it looks ominous. And then this is actually goddess Isis here, and she's holding some sort of staff. Most of the time, goddess Isis is holding a, what's it called? A torch. So the eternal light representing Satan. So inviting. Anyway, this is the usual judicial stuff, right? So here are the details. If you speak French, the details of the case are explained here very briefly. But what's very important, apart from you downloading this document, that you have proof that this court hearing actually it has taken place. Okay, so the previous court summons here, this court date has been shifted. So this court summons from today is the one about a court case that actually is taking place. But I also would like you to have, with the permission of Frederic Laroche, the expert testimonies I have handed to the court. I have already handed an expert testimony on the 29th of May. This was even, over a year before the first court summons. And that is because I was supporting Frederic as an expert when he was confined in psychiatry. Then this was my expert testimony to be used in June. But since then, you can, by the way, you can have it in English here and in French down there. This is a certified French translation. If you prefer to read French, it's here with this, the stamp of the translators. But since then, there have been developments, very interesting ones. So here's my new testimony that I've written on the 27th of November for the second court summons, again in English and in French. And what you'll find here are all the details. So this is the first page, is just my qualifications. This is what's so unusual about the case of Frederic Laroche. The fact is that he actually found radio frequency chips, and I'm giving the URL here. So as you're watching this, you can see him use the bug detector and actually measure his head, and you can see that the bug detector shows a signal that disappears when the antenna is taken away. Now, the back of the head is very common for implanting. A microwave weapon expert in Belgium who worked on military R&D confirmed to me that agents have been implanted above the hairline and the neck and on the back of the head and the back of the top of the head since about the 1970s, serially. So this is nothing unusual. It's actually a very typical place to find a chip. And that point on the back of the head is very easy. I hope you can see it. It's very easy to hit from a satellite, okay, or from cell towers, and from any other, telecommunication antenna. So Frederic Laroche found this, chip in himself, and he published that in March of this year, okay. So this is a new piece of information for the court that you can read my comments about. But most importantly, he also found a radio frequency chip in his mother. So he measured his elderly mother here, and you can find, as you're watching this, you can see that it's, with these bug detectors, it takes some time to actually, because you have to get the angle right. But eventually you can see that at some point he hones it in and he actually finds a chip. So he's scanning actually a bit too fast for I know I can't find where exactly the moment is where he finds it. Anyway, you have to, oh, there it is. You can just see the little LED light light up. So you have to really scan and change the angle very slowly until you see the bug detector pick up something. That is a telltale sign of a chip, that you have to get the angle right, because these chips seem to be emitting in a very reduced sort of way. And, so what I saw from this measurement is typical for non-consensual body implants. And again, the point where he found it is the top of the back of the head. Okay, and maybe you remember that Richard Lighthouse also presented, if I may just briefly take you there, I would like you to Richard Lighthouse. Here we are. So in the interview, Richard Lighthouse also explained, sorry, this is adverts, forgive me. I don't really want to advertise on my channel. I'm just waiting to skip the advert. Okay, so here I'm showing a diagram there, which is where satellite tracking aims at. Okay, so Richard Lighthouse, here's the interview under the Special Investigator series, is a former NASA engineer, and he has investigated the basically the involvement of satellite-based weapons. So he discovered that this is the point where the satellites would be aiming for human tracking, and that's also where the non-consensual body implants are implanted in the victims. I have an implant there, and I also have a very strong implant in my neck. But what is shocking is to see that Frederic Laroche's elderly mother is implanted like he is. So this is really a staggering case. What has also come to the fore is that the brother, or the half-brother rather, of Frederic Laroche suffered from voice du skull. He was a professor for philosophy in France, and he felt threatened, and he kept saying that he's being ganged up on and being kind of persecuted by people he can't identify. So this is typical of gang stalking. But unfortunately, the half-brother died in a rather spectacular, mysterious accident moments after his wife died. So he died in a car crash outside the hospital, which to me, again, is so unusual. I can't go into that detail because the court, or Frederic hasn't asked me, but you know what I think about these sort of accidents that go spectacularly wrong. Anyway, so there are lots of details, but most tellingly, and this is where the bombshell lies, Frederic Laroche's father, I was told, was also a prisoner of war in a Nazi war camp, and the Nazis did human experimentation on him. Now, this is extremely pertinent to the case because it would explain why Frederic, as well as his mother, right, as well as his half-brother and himself, are chipped. I suspect it's long-term generational targeting. You can read all about it here, and please come to the court case if you are near Grenoble today. I also, as you know, had a suspicious car accident here that resulted in 3,200. Sorry, I think last time I said 3,900. I got the number wrong. There have been so many expenses. It has only, in inverted commas, been 3,200 euros damages. I checked the cost estimate from the garage again. But this was as I was traveling through France, and the path I took back from Brussels, I traveled through France such that the total time I spent in France was 1 hour on the motorway. And in that 1 hour, as I'm appearing as a court expert testifying against the French Secret Service, I'm suffering a car accident where somebody bumps me from behind. And I've said many times what was unusual about the car accident, that it was in a stop-and-go traffic jam where the person behind me saw my car. I had been in front of this car, in walking pace for 10 minutes. And then just before the accident happened, I was about to honk my horn because the car in front of me didn't move. And the traffic jam itself had already, moved forward by 100 meters ahead of us. So I strongly suspect, and I have put my suspicions into my affidavit, that I was to be bumped from behind and pushed into the car in front, to then blame the accident on me and call me a reckless driver. And if you have a reckless driving car accident and you appear in a court case where the defendant is accused of reckless driving, you can be disqualified, I presume. So this is what's going on tomorrow. I also have to say the intense physical torture I experienced, it's not just torture, it's actually systematic brain mutilation, is out of this world. So since Saturday, I haven't really slept very well. This is why it's 1 a.m. and, I have to get up in about 4 hours, but I just cannot sleep because I'm still being gunned and tortured with the chips on my head, which I have as well. And it is extremely hard to cope, in this Nazi system, fighting this Holocaust on your own, but I'm really doing my best. But the last couple of days, I just didn't sleep at night. I was tortured all the way through. I would go to bed at 6 a.m., 8 a.m. in the morning. And that's usually, you're in bed for maybe an hour trying to just sleep under heavy gunning. And eventually you fall asleep at a point where your body just gives in to total exhaustion. So, I have heard reports about soldiers in the First and Second World War just collapsing and sleeping, even though there was, heavy duty gunning around them, and just sleeping like as if they were dead. And that's exactly what your body does. You reach the point of such utter exhaustion, and you're even more exhausted, even if you haven't done any physical exertion, if you're being mutilated, because your body puts a lot of energy into non-stop repair. So you are exhausted and drained all the time. And that's exactly what happened to me. So we have severe I would say witness intimidation, because I do not believe that that car accident was by accident. And I for sure have severe witness intimidation and witness mutilation and physical violence against the main and only defense witness testifying in this court case against the Secret Services. So we're talking about severe perverting the course of justice here already. And I would like to testify about that before I set off tomorrow, because I have to say, I have experienced several assassination attempts by now, many of them on the road, most of them on the road, actually, on the motorway, and I almost expect something similar tomorrow. I am pleased to say that Gerhard Ulrich, the Swiss judicial campaigner, is accompanying me tomorrow, and I am extremely relieved he will be with me, because I would be seriously scared for my life on my own. I'm scared already, but this way I at least have a witness. But I also want you to know that, you know, it puts both of us into danger. And I would like you all to keep an eye out for us tomorrow, that we make it safely. And please, you know, do cause a massive fuss if we don't arrive there safely. And another thing I would like to publish, I wanted to put it up online, but I just didn't have the time. For this reason, I'm going to read out the translation. I wanted to publish the desperate email that Frederic Laroche sent this morning, because he has been tortured so hard that for the last 3 days he hasn't slept. So, you know, and this goes all the way up to the point where you have to appear before court. So I would like you to have a look. I've just copied and pasted the French email. He gave me permission to publish it, and I would like, and as I said, the evidence that this really comes from an email will be forthcoming soon, when I have time to upload the email. But what Frederic said is, so here on the right, sorry, on the left, you can read the French, on the right, the English. I'm just going to read out the English translation. He wrote this morning, "Hello, it has been 3 days since I was tortured to death, and I do not sleep. And all of this falls as if by chance on the day before my trial, so that I do not even have the strength to go there tomorrow, because all I want to be able to is to sleep. I wanted you to know, because it is very rare that they attack me more than 2 nights in a row, and it is no coincidence that the 3rd night falls on the evening before my trial, for to make me fall flat, and that I'm sick for not being able to come to ensure my defense, and so that the Secret Services can get rid of all this, or this entire affair, which raises many political problems for them, without which..." Sorry, this is Google Translate throwing me off tracks, without which I can come to speak of them and give them negative publicity. So in other words, he's saying, you know, they're trying to shut me up. He said, "They tortured me to guard against my public accusations against them that they do not want. How am I going to get out? Thank you, Frederic Laroche." So forgive the somewhat jolted translation. I've just read out the Google Translate, direct translation, but you get it. And if you understand French, you saw the original, and you can see the desperation. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is now the reality here in Europe. The Secret Services have, you know, such a criminal stronghold on us, and have now launched an all-out Holocaust, that they do not care about the, you know, the torture of litigants and defendants in court cases. They do not care. Well, they care a lot, in fact, but they do not care. You know, they care a lot about the torture of expert witnesses, and they do not care for the rule of law at all, because they are completely above the law. And what will be very important tomorrow is that you come, and if you can be in Grenoble, that you become a court observer, because so far every single court case that I've attended for other people, I have seen the most outlandish things being done by judges. So, you know, and I had 3 court cases pro se, as you know, and out of those, the 3rd judge did also outrageous things, I felt. So, you know, we have a serious problem with what I would call judicial corruption, and I am extremely worried. I want the court case to go well tomorrow. I want to testify to the best of my ability. And most importantly, I want Frederic to get his life back, because I strongly feel he has been the victim of crimes against humanity for now 19 years, going on to 2 decades. So tomorrow will be a chance for the French state to start cycling out. The crimes are coming to the fore, even an assassination attempt against me. My brain mutilation and neurological destruction does not stop the fact that these crimes are coming out. There are, I should also say, several court experts, kind of in training and, building up their skills. So I'm not alone. I will not be the only person, and these things will not be silenced, even if I get killed, like they murdered Dr. Ronnie Kilder, for example, who was probably the expert in all this. So I want us all in Europe to now come together and decide, do we want this Nazi Holocaust? Do we want to have our countries utterly devastated yet once more? Or can we actually pull out of this in a civilized and productive fashion? And I'm very pleased. I just caught, I think, the first half hour of a very good interview with the financial expert Katherine Horton. And it's the newest one on Greg Hunter's USA Watchdog. And there, I probably, if I've got the time, I'll put the link below. So, if you're not watching live, hopefully by the time you're watching, the link will be in the description below the video. But she's saying that if you really stop the crime and you start cycling out, her financial analysis that she did for the government, the US government, showed that the wealth generation is exploding. And that's exactly what I expect as a systems analyst, because at the moment we have a destructive Holocaust genocide-based downward spiral. And if you're doing a genocide, you are destroying your own markets. So if you want to have wealth generation, actually, immigration is not what destroys wealth. Immigration generates wealth, because new people, will buy houses from you, will drive up house prices, they will buy coffee machines and carpets and all this sort of stuff. So do not be mistaken. Depending on what sort of immigration it is, if it's not military immigration, it's a good thing and it leads to boom. But do not be mistaken. This story is not about immigration versus non-immigration. The story is about the global crime cartel against the normal, decent people wherever they are in the world. Okay. When you now have a situation where you're starting to shut down criminality, what you have is genuine entrepreneurs being able to put out those platforms and those products that everybody desperately needs, and it leads to a ratcheting upwards. So as you probably know, 2 of my businesses have been destroyed. Now I have to fight the crime cartel, instead of being productive. And and I'm telling you, this is happening in the thousands. The secret services, as far as I can make out, have now put down organized crime cells in every town and in every village, in every single European country, and in the US and Canada. So this is what you do if you want to prepare for mass genocide. But as soon as you have a mass genocide, you devastate your economy for decades to come. That is what happened, after in Nazi Germany. Do not be mistaken about the Wirtschaftswunder, the economic boom. It wasn't quite as rosy as it's painted, and this devastation that I'm talking about has been experienced in Eastern Europe and in many other places. Now, the question is, do we want to have, a Cold War Eastern Europe style total devastation of our countries, or can we now get down to the pivot points? And the pivot points are cases like that of Frederic Laroche. And can we use those pivot points to really start shutting down the organized crime cartels, the secret services, and the military? Because they do not work for our countries. They work for an extraterritorial global organized crime syndicate. You have to understand that. Okay. So tomorrow's case is massive. It involves, a direct connection to the old Nazi human experimentation programs. I strongly believe it contains generational targeting and the evidence thereof. It contains the death of, several people. And, I can't go too much into that, but it also contains induced cancer and many other things, chipping in the ear canal for voice to skull, body chipping for physical torture, directed energy weapons, satellite-based weapons. It has pretty much the lot. It is, one of the most, century-defining court cases here in Europe, and it's happening in France today. So if you can get your ass down to Grenoble, I think that would be very good, time and financial investment. And if you can't, could you maybe please start calling up the media? Because it is incredibly important that we have the eye of the general public on this. I think sunlight is, Bill Binney always says, is the best disinfectant. And these cockroaches need to, with the cockroaches, I mean the criminals, they do need to be exposed to sunlight. And I feel that in that court case, I have come across evidence for a lot of criminal behavior and a lot of ruthless criminals. So please, get on the case. I also would like to say I have just checked my car. The car is fully fueled. The engine is running perfectly. The battery is fully charged. The tires are inflated. I have a spare car battery here that is fully charged. And I have locked the car. I have switched off all the lights so the battery cannot be drained. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I do expect literally the fireworks of Intel sabotage to kick off tomorrow. I do not even in the least expect this court case to run honestly or smoothly, unfortunately, based on my past experience. So I expect intense gang stalking. I am typically on the motorway shot in the head continuously. I have something like a 5-hour car drive ahead of me before the court hearing. So I expect intense head mutilation, gunning on the streets of Switzerland and on the streets of France. So this is what I have to face up tomorrow. And I'm not sure how many hours they will let me sleep. I hope I will get 3 or something like that. So very, very important case. Please get in touch. And, you can see just the injuries in my face. This is the price that I have to pay, for this, of what I'm doing. But I also would like to say the current arrangement is that I'm working for Frederic pro bono because he does not have the money to pay me. And, my services, should he win the case, will be charged to the court as his expert testimony defense. Now, the reason why I say that is because I want you to take this court case tomorrow as, evidence for yourself that you can see these court cases are now being launched. As I said, I said in the autumn we'll start processing these court cases, and this is what I'm doing. And please do get onto the affidavit template. If you are a victim, do start writing up your court case. And the first step that you should take, if I may just take you to my website, back to my website, if you are a victim yourself and you need assistance, yes, you will get assistance, I guarantee you. But your first step is the following. Please go to my website, which is stop007.org. The very first link here is the affidavit form and the explanatory notes. Click on that, and you will have a video explaining how to fill out this affidavit template, which is shown here. The middle bit is what you fill out. The bottom one is just to look at the affidavit in PDF form, but not to be filled out because you cannot fill out the PDF. And then the top one are the explanatory notes that explain what this entire affidavit is. It contains my signature, it contains an FAQ and a glossary, and it explains everything you need to know about this global Holocaust program and how I propose to fight it using court cases in the most civilized manner possible. So if you are a victim, I really urge you, please get started, fill out this affidavit form, and then we can take it from there. Okay, but the first step is that you need to fill out this form. Unless I know what's been done to you in a written format, I cannot help you. And then also know that if you do not have the funds for a court case, that is also not a stop. So as a court expert, I am working always pro se for the victims, unless they are, of course, multimillionaires. And that is because most victims have experienced administrative and financial terrorism. Their businesses have been destroyed. They have been sacked from their jobs. And the secret services always try to push people into utter financial destruction. So I'm very aware that, Victims cannot fight it, but of course the target is that you win your cases, and then my fee is paid by the court as a court expert. So do not worry about that. I do try to give you the absolute very best that I can in the assessment of your case. And you can look at the expert testimonies I have now prepared for Frederic Laroche. You will see exactly what the judge has been given and what I go there to testify for. Okay, and I hope you can see that I am not, hiding anything. I am really saying it as it is, as I see it to the best of my knowledge as a court expert, and I really do not care what intimidation the Secret Services try to pull. They have now mutilated me for a week straight, and at very high intensity since Saturday, but that does not change the content of my testimony. And the more they do, the more I will publicly testify about these crimes against humanity that they are doing as part of their global Holocaust. Now, I also would like to draw your attention to the following. If I may share my screen one more time, I would like to teach you how you can use these affidavits that I'm writing and weaponize them for your own court case. Please go to the Frederic Laroche case, and as I said, please download the court summons so that you can, this one here, the second one, so that you can prove the court case took place. And when you download my testimonies here, in the French version, so the newest version that has a French translation, this is in French, but I'll just explain it. The attestation, so the French affidavit form, requires of an expert witness that they write in their own hand, as in their handwriting, a line here where they say that they acknowledge that they will be fined with up to 15,000 euros and jailed for up to a year if it turns out that they give wrong testimony or if they falsify anything. So this French attestation here, and also the English translation, you should download the French to show that these are the conditions under which they have been submitted. But basically, when you download this expert testimony in English here for the case of Frederic Laroche, you can be assured that I'm testifying, first of all, under oath. Second of all, right, I'm testifying in court as well. I can be questioned in court about what I'm testifying about. And furthermore, I am testifying also under the condition that I really say the truth. And if they find out that I'm not, I can be fined, both 15,000 euros and be locked up in jail for a year. These are extremely stringent conditions. So you can imagine I'm not just going there frivolously and saying these things that I'm saying just because, I'm an agent or I'm a fake or I'm not, I don't know, I've just made it up last Wednesday. So this is really what I'm seeing now, and what I can conclude based on 2 years of intense investigation that I've run myself, okay, just to do with Secret Service criminality. And I'm testifying, based on that experience. So in other words, if you download those PDFs and you include them in your court cases, which you're very welcome to, you can immediately point to a court expert in Europe testifying to a standard that you can use in American courts and in English courts and in courts around the world about the existence of directed energy weapons, about the existence of implants, how they can be measured, about generational targeting, about directed energy weapon attacks on the civilian population, about physical attacks, about witness intimidation, about staged car accidents, the entire lot, okay? So understand that if your court case is even, remotely related to any of those types of criminality, you can use my court affidavit and already use the fact I testified about it without even having to hire me directly, if you know what I'm saying. In other words, you can start putting it into your local police station, you can give it to them, you can give it to your representatives, and you can give it to your psychiatrist if he or she still didn't get her head around modern technology. And, you can give it also to your family to prove that this is really happening. So I hope you understand how big, big, big that court case is tomorrow. It is extremely important. And I really hope that you all reach out to all and sundry, inform them about this, and keep an eye on me tomorrow. And in return, I'll promise you I'll do my absolute very best to, you know, get Frederic off these charges, which I personally seriously consider to be just made up. But it has to be seen what the judge says about it. All I can do is present the evidence and my insights as I see them and testify under the conditions I've just outlined. So please join me for the court case tomorrow, and I shall be reporting back. I have to travel back and maybe even drop people off in various remote locations, so I might return very late after the court case. And but I will let you know over Twitter how I'm faring. I will try to keep in touch. If this time my mobile phone provider doesn't cut off my data stream in France like they've done before, I can tweet to you and I can inform you, you know, what is happening as it's unfolding. But I'll certainly let you know that I'm fine as soon as I'm back in Switzerland. So thank you very much for listening, and thank you all of you who have supported us to get this far. And we'll hope to, you know, repay you to the benefit of all the victims around the world. So thank you for listening, and bye for now.